He was the first New Zealander that cracked me up. He was this country guy with a black singlet and gumboots, and I was this little Samoan kid.
Obviously John Clarke was massive, and the end of year there's a costume parade that the little primary school put on, and I went as Fred Dagg.
Look, we all had a crush on John. Boys, girls, the janitor. I mean, he was so funny.
And you can't exactly put your finger on how that was. He just had funny bones, I guess.
He is a natural comedian. John, I think, exuded humour. He was an authority, almost a world authority on humour. I just knew that he was a star because he was light years ahead of everybody.
John Clarke. That'll be the door.
Fill me form out. Just a moment. That'll be the phone. That'll be the phone. Yeah, g'day. Just a minute. That'll be the phone. I'm not here. I'll ask me to ring you back later. Thank you. Sorry about the interruption there.
I'd heard about John. While I was in Palmerston, John's fame had spread from Victoria University campus to Massey campus. You two would get on so well. You'd love him. And I did meet him. We did get on really, really well.
Now then, you are a bona fide student?
No, I'm a geology student.
A geology student. And do you have any references?
References? Mm-hmm. I can handle cows.
I beg your pardon?
On the farm. Of course, if you put a conveyor belt round the back wheel of your tractor, you can run bloody near anything off it. You can run any number of things off that.
Yes, but you've got to have petrol to run the tractor, don't you?
You've been to university, have you?
John could just come on and probably just stand there and make you laugh.
There you go. All right, story.
People just couldn't wait to see enough of him.
He was perfect, he really was.
That John Clarke was a Manawatu native. It just added to that whole mythology of Palmerston North being the centre of New Zealand comedy.
Yeah, I don't know what the trouble is here. Do you know something about engines? Oh, Fred's the name.
Oh, Bill.
G'day, mate. You know something about him?
Not too much, no. I don't think I'd make a dollar.
When we'd met on the street, you could see a little wheel turning in his head, and he'd always make an obscure joke about Palmerston North that only someone who lived there in the 60s and 70s would say.
Well, I think he also liked the fact that New Zealanders had a kind of a unique deadpan comedy that just turned up all the time in pubs.
Excuse me, sir? So what sort of a job do you think the NZBC has been making over the past few years?
The NZ... Get in behind!
It's almost impossible to kind of convey to people how big Fred Dagg was. He was a cultural phenomena in a way that totally deserves the usage of that word.
What the? Kiwi comic icon Fred Dagg.
G'day. Yeah, g'day. G'day. Yeah, g'day. Yeah, g'day. How you doing? All right? It's the story. G'day. How you doing? Haven't seen you for a while. It's not a bad day.
He was more popular than a Prime Minister, more identifiable than just about anyone in New Zealand.
It was like walking up the street with a Hollywood film star.
You just watched it just invent itself from the first time he went on.
Now what we've got here is the basic world.
Suddenly everyone was thinking, I know this is meant to be a pastiche of a rural person, but it's not, it's something mad. Something mad by a chap called John Clarke.
Fred Dagg was a moment in history. I'm sure, we had a bit of him rubbed off on us.
Sit down! Get out, you rot!
He spent a lot of time reflecting on the ways of the average New Zealander and the way they speak and the way they dress. And that endeared him immediately to people, both on the live stage and on television. He was able to create a magnificent show of New Zealanders looking into themselves.
How did you do that?
Out of the blue, he said, I've been watching your Ken character, Linda. And he said, when you look at Ken, he's got a cigarette between these two fingers of that, and he holds that cigarette like that. But you'll notice that his thumb is out like that. So it's like He holds a cigarette in here, but his thumb is out like that. And he said, you know what that is, Linda? It means that if a 9-ounce glass of beer fell out of the sky, it would fit perfectly into Ken's hand. Because like that is the holding of a beer glass.
With a cigarette in the
9
same
ounce,
hand.
the little ones, you know, at 6 o'clock swill. It was like he had acknowledged something about Ken that I hadn't even thought of. And I felt so proud. I did. It made me feel so proud. And I just, I wanted to hug him.
And here is the Dominion forecast till midnight tonight. There is a deep-seated depression over the government buildings in Wellington, and this is expected to extend on to the rest of the country by the end.
He really used the monotone as part of his comedy.
Would you say this is the end of the Olympics as we know them?
All right, this is the end of the Olympics as we know them.
Part of the success of the character of Fred Dagg is that voice.
I think that is what we philosophers call the exception that proves the rule. I think there's a clear-cut case there.
John Clarke really knew that it was also this voice of authority. And Fred Dagg has this authority about him that he knows everything. He's got 2 million sheep, he's got all of these things.
I'd like you to tell me truthfully how many sheep you in fact have.
Around 2 million. Around about 2 million. My wife put him through the race the other day while I was knocking off my porridge in the morning, and she reckoned there were about 2 million. We've made her a typical New Zealand dish.
What's that?
What is it? It's a pavlova. With mashed potato on top, garnished with a chop. And we're hoping she'll tear into that with great alacrity.
If I'm 55, married or single, what could I expect under your plan in 5 years' time?
Oh, you could expect to be 60. We're not going to dabble with age at all. We're not going to play around with nature. That'd be stupid. In fact, I think at that time I said I will not borrow anything else unless it's a last resort at the present point in time. Well, of course, it's not that present point in time any longer. Time has moved on. The present point in time tends to meander about a bit. Now, the present point in time being the time at which I'm now speaking to you, this is not a last resort. And when the present point in time arrives, when it is a last resort, I will give you a yell at that present point in time.
If I could make John laugh more, I felt great.
It's like going to the Olympics. If you could make John laugh, that was pretty cool.
I understand you've got 8 people supporting you, all of them called Dagg.
I believe that's correct, yes. There's T-Dagg, 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 T-Dagg. There's Trevor Dagg, there's Trev Dagg, and of course there's young Trev, my youngest son, and there's OS Dagg, of course, as well.
Who's OS Dagg?
Oh, that'd be the old Sheila. Yeah, she'd be in there.
Well, he was smart enough to, on Country Calendar or whatever, to make a quintessential Kiwi sort of character.
Fred Dagg is the perfect parody of the Kiwi farmer. I watched the Fred Dagg Country Calendar.
Turn the separator off.
I found that really funny at the time, but then revisiting it, you kind of see the utter genius of it. It's so good, and I just rewatched it again just to remind myself of it. It's genius. He just kind of takes an element of it and pushes it to the extreme. And I'm thinking about this one scene where he kind of talks about the rotary.
Yeah, g'day. This is the milking setup.
He's just talking inane chatter for a good 2 minutes just about the rotary and how they don't know how the rotary has worked, and one of his sons, Trev, has tried to fix it and things like that.
The wife did most of the heavy work.
I've been around farmers who have talked inane chatter about a fence. It's just so true. That's why he's so genius.
G'day.
Get in behind. Sit down.
Instead of shearing twice a year, what we're doing at the moment is we're not shearing this year, and we're putting back onto the sheep the wool we took off them in the previous year.
I was all just completely spontaneous, out of this genius mind, of comic mind. He knew exactly what to do. He changed the lyrics to Fred Daggisms. Which I'm good. The lyrics on the book are not the same as the lyrics on the song. because he did the way Fred Dagg would say that line will be this. You know, one of my great thrills was being in a bedroom with Fred Dagg.
Well, since my baby left me, I found a new place to dwell.
Yeah, that's probably my favourite John Clarke memory. But the fact that it was, I've never seen my brother so excited about getting something, listening to something like that, and then not being mature enough to understand it.
He taught me to yodel, 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 yodel.
John Clarke created the perfect character for his voice. His voice is so easy to listen to and it fits perfectly into that Fred Dagg character and subsequent ones he's done, but also he was a great actor.
Well, actually, she's an ex-rental. A mate of mine thrashed the ring out of her for a fair bit, brought her in here, see if I could find some bunny to fit into it.
Performance for him was a sort of a necessary evil, or at least that's how he sold it. But he was just good at it.
That's about it. Well, the body work's pretty well rooted, as you can see, but, well, they never give up, these old sixes, do they, you know? Little hard to start, runs like a haunted shithouse for a bit, but once she warms up, there's a lot of grunt under here. I wouldn't be surprised if you got the ton out of this, you know, on a decent downhill run, you know, with a brisk northerly up your freckle. G'day, Cheeky.
Give us 5 minutes, Wally.
OK, Cheeky. I've got just the place lined up for tonight. I think it was, in the end, down to it was John Gielgud or Meryl Streep with a fair bit of makeup, or myself, and I had the least travelling time involved, and so I secured the part. It is, as I say, a sensitive role. Shut up, you're in the film. There you go. Sleep tight, little fella. Cripes. They'll need changing. Oh, well.
It was out there. It was really different what he was doing, but it pertained to New Zealand.
Which wasn't always Fred Dagg, because John was a much more complex character than that.
John Clarke had a whole level of other stuff going on that I think marked him kind of as the godfather, absolutely, of New Zealand comedy. Certainly anything vaguely political or social.
That could have worked in UK, it could have worked anyway. And he proved that when he went to Australia.
Farnarkling is a completely bogus sport, which I invented a few years ago when I was doing a weekly satirical program. And I think the reason that it worked is that there's nothing sillier than sport, except a sport that doesn't exist.
He didn't even dress up in like his later stuff that he did. He got to a point where he was just in a suit, not even making any effort to be like the person he was parodying, the complete opposite of Fred Dagg. And that is like a magic trick. I still don't know how he did that. It's bizarre. It's crazy.
Fred Dagg was this separate character to Clarke and Dawes, if you like, the John Clarke from Clarke and Dawes. And those interviews, to me, are the pinnacle of political humour.
Norman May, thanks for joining us.
It's a very great pleasure, mate. You beauty. You little river. No trouble.
Thank you.
No worries.
Right. There's been some comment about the coverage of the games. Can I ask you, who do you think your audience was exactly?
Oh, blokes.
I'm sorry?
Blokes. A lot of blokes.
How do you mean blokes?
Well, blokes. Australian blokes. A lot of Australian blokes love their sport. We're broadcasting.
John said the role of the satirist is to find holes in the veneer through which fun can be poked.
This is a complex metaphor, but bear with me. New Zealand has left the table. There's a chair there for New Zealand at the table. It's been vacated because they've left the table, but they will come back, hopefully, and resume their chair at the table, and everybody will be at the table. The table is there and the New Zealanders are not there, and hopefully those two elements can be put together in the future.
Well, what would you say to them if they were at the table?
We'd tell them to go to buggery.
He's more Australian than Australians are, really, in terms of the way he speaks. But he's like that when he's performing. He's like that when he's off and he's not performing.
Mr. Keating, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
How are things in New Zealand?
Very good. I've been able to sort them out on a number of matters, and I think things are improving in New Zealand now.
You've been able to sort them out?
Yes, they learn very quickly here. I think they've responded particularly well to...
To a born leader of men.
I beg your pardon?
To a born leader of men.
No, I meant to me. I mean, they responded particularly well to me.
No, that's what I meant. Mr. Bolger impress you?
Yes, we're good friends, aren't we, Jim? Jim and I, yeah, plenty big friend. I mean, we're like that, aren't we? Well, he is. Anyway, Jim and I...
He just had a mellifluous ability to roll it out. But I'm sure it was all up there in a big reel waiting to be pulled out.
This is a test of everybody's patience because we're shooting on the main road
between Melbourne and Sydney. There's a great deal of traffic, and we're doing dialogue which is extremely softly spoken, and much of which is in Turkish. So I think this is the greatest number of problems permissible under the Geneva Convention.
I loved the series that he did about, you know, the Olympics. He was such a funny, funny man.
I've got a theory that if people leave New Zealand and never return, then they do become deified much more than if they have to stay and you bump into them in Courtney Place or down Queen Street.
I mean, fuck Pavlova and Crowded House. We lost John Clarke.
You can't go back in there, love. Kevin the Kiwi at your disposal. G'day, everyone.
G'day, Prime Minister.
Have you found us a new home yet?
No, sir, not yet.
Well, not everyone's enjoying the South Island experience, particularly the South Islands, I have to say.
I don't believe any such thing as there's such a thing called a comic genius. But what I do believe in is moments of comic genius, and he had more than his fair share, that man.
Right, kick it in the guts, Trev.
He certainly was the trailblazer for the rest who came along afterwards.
The man's integrity showed through all the time. He was straight up with people, never put on airs and graces. It was always just John.
He was just so loved. He was so loved by the entire population, whether he liked it or not.
He was very generous. He was very generous to me in tough times, and believe me, mine were.
He's our greatest living, now dead, comedy hero and kind of cultural icon, and we didn't really celebrate it that much. That pissed me off.
Sometimes people ask me about what it's like to have him as a dad. I'm sort of just going on my own experience there, but he knew how to find the fun and make the best of life. You know, he was an enthusiast.
How much fun could you have than be doing Fred Dagg? It was just terrific.
God of nations, at thy feet.